And what 3, 2. Kia ora tātou, ko hiko ai tēnā tōku ingoa, he uri tēnei no te arawa, no te Tairāwhiti whānui. Kia ora everyone, my name is Hiko Aitenahu and I come from Rotorua and the Māori East Coast. And today with us we have a few of our academics from the University of Auckland to answer some of our burning questions. Nā reira, ka huri kia kōrua. I tēn.
Tēnā ko heko ai, o te rā tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Dan Hukuroa tōku ingoa, kei te mahi ai te whare wānanga o Waipapa. My name's Dan Hukuroa and I work in Māori Studies, University of Auckland, Waipapa Taumatarau.
Kia ora.
Talofa lava, my name is Jemima Tetia Seith. I'm co-head of school for Te Wānanga Waipapa, School of Māori Studies and Pacific Studies. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Well, hey, I study Māori Studies and Environmental Science to learn about sustainability, climate change, me aua mamuahuatanga, those particular subjects. One of the questions we have for you is, how does studying those topics give our students a sense of, climate change, sustainability, those particular ideas, and why is that important?
Ai, he pātai nui tērā, that's one of the big questions. And I think overall a critical thing about coming to Māori studies to understand those challenges of sustainability, climate change, is because we think in a systems way. And that's one of the critical things we need to bring is instead of looking at it in its component parts, in Māori studies we bring systems thinking, and I think that's possibly the same over in Pacific studies as well, Jemima.
Yeah, it is. Our Pacific Ocean makes a third of the globe, right. And as Pacifica students or Pacific students, sometimes we get lost in that vast ocean, and we kind of need to know where we belong, and we need to reconnect with our identity and who our ancestors were, and I think Pacific Studies gives you a real good blast around that.
So would you say you would also be offering a traditional ancestral view to that kind of subject as well?
Absolutely, and that's one of the critical components we bring in our courses is bringing a Māori worldview, bringing a Pacifica worldview. And that's super important because these challenges we face, I don't think science or other bodies of knowledge can solve on their own. We need to bring together all the information we have, including those worldviews, and therein, maybe in that weaving, we'll find some of the solutions we seek.
Gee. So what are some areas that you've seen undergraduates go into that are quite exciting and are interesting when it comes to sustainability?
Yeah, well, kia hau, I've seen students take a course on tikanga, ancestral ways in modern times. And that really builds on understanding Mātauranga Māori is knowledge that was born of this land and infused with the principles, including things like kaitiakitanga, which incorporate sustainability. And then these students can understand what those ancestral ways mean and those principles, how they manifest in modern times. So as you say, you can go back to your community and work amazing things, or you can go down and write new policy, which means that we're going to have better outcomes for sustainability. We need people down in the Climate Change Commission. We need people down working on emissions trade schemes. We also need people in the hapori demonstrating that, hey, if we have sea level rise, what does that mean for our marae? What does that mean for our urupa? So there's a whole suite of things, but to me, it's about those tikanga, ancestral ways in modern times.
Cool, kia ora. Yeah, especially those on, up at the coast there in Upper Nui, how all their marae, their papakainga are right there, right by the ocean.
Aye.
Ki te whakaaro here, we think about those ones who are right there, right by the ocean, and if the ocean's rising, what's the go there,
That's their most pressing need for many communities.
Me, your whakaaro, your point of view on that one?
Usually, the Pacific is seen as particularly vulnerable to climate change, the adverse events and natural disasters and stuff like that. But what we tend to miss is that Pacific peoples are resilient in their own right. And so it's about kind of getting a hold of those stories and finding those community solutions and solutions that we've known for generations, and kind of harnessing those and bringing them to the fore in a more contemporary kind of world. And so I think with Pacific Studies and Māori Studies, we've seen this real youth shift in those spaces and a real loud, loud voice in the climate change and environment spaces, and it's a beautiful thing because yes, it is reconnecting us back to our ancestors, and like I said, the ocean is in us, and it is us.
What other topics or issues can our students look forward to when studying Māori Studies or Pacific Studies?
I think for Pacific Studies, the beautiful thing about the discipline is that you're able to look through multiple lenses, whether you have an anthropological background, health and well-being, history, the languages, Tongan, Cook Islands and Samoan. We're the only tertiary institution to teach those 3 languages. You get a real good, wholesome sense of the diversity, not just here in Aotearoa, but also across the Pacific region and globally.
Kia ora. What other subjects could tie in or combine into your field of study?
So I'm a scientist by training, actually. I came through the University of Auckland and trained in science, but I've been working within and for Māori communities for 15 or 20 years now. And what's important about working on Māori studies for me is I don't need to be defined by my discipline.
Aye.
The community just says, we've got a take, we've got an issue, how can you bring your skills? And it's through an arts lens, an arts approach that enables me to actually come in and wrap around and build teams to try and answer those problems or try and realise those dreams. So we span mātauranga, we span te reo, we span social issues and an introduction to Māori society. And it's not just for Māori studies students, we've got many of our students from law and science and economics and engineering are taking courses in Māori studies. It's possibly similar for you, Jemima.
Yeah, same thing. You'll be able to take Pacific perspectives into any kind of discipline, business, management, architecture. There's a real good interjection of Pacific infused ideas, and I guess what's really important about Māori and Pacific Studies, it's the opportunity for our students to have a voice, to be able to privilege those stories that you don't necessarily hear about in secondary school, and so you come and you just be prepared to get your mind blown.
Cool. Now, speaking of, teaching with our Māori students, Pacifica students, and overall students from all around the globe, what do you love most about teaching?
O kia hau, ka titiro te ukaipō I runga I ngā rangatahi. So to me it's when the students really that ukaipō moment, that eureka moment, and in particular it's when I teach them that we all have a worldview. And what's happened for many of our students is that their worldview is different to the dominant worldview. And the dominant one is so pervasive it becomes invisible. And when I demonstrate to them that actually everyone's got a worldview, and it's not good or bad or wrong or right, but that when you look to understand the world or make sense of it, you do it through that lens. And so when I open up people's worlds to realising that they have one and that the person next to them has one, to me that's one of those real amazing things about teaching.
Cool.
And it's developing future leaders at the end of the day. It's been able to, I guess, release a student's full potential, whatever that may be. And I think arts provides that, in that it is just so vast and so diverse that you'll be able to, I guess, pick which parts suit you best.
Now, for me, and ultimately all students, future students who are coming to study, whether it be Pacific Studies, Māori Studies, or arts in general, what is one thing that you would want us to take away from that experience?
The one thing I would like all students to take away from that experience is to be clear in their identity of who they are, and that's what grounds them, and then from that strong foundation they can do whatever they like.
Yeah, the one thing for me would probably be to be confident, don't be afraid to ask for help because all that support is around you, and dare to be different.
What would be some advice you guys have for students, high school students who have not quite yet made that decision on what to study?
My advice for those students who aren't quite clear is to take a broad array of papers that really interest you. There'll be some core things, but take something that really interests you as well. You'll have some idea, and you aren't locked in by that first suite of papers you take. You can get a taste for things and then get a feel for what it is you really want to be. Often that will emerge as you undertake your study.
Agreed, yep.
Yeah.
Kia ora. O hei, tēnei te mihi nui kia kōrua i wā kōrua kōrero, tuatahi mai kia hau, engari tuarua kia rātou mai mātaki ana. So I'd like to thank you for sharing your kōrero, your experiences, your advice, not only with me, but those who are watching this, big ups to them, and hopefully this helps help them make that step to come into the university scene and explore themselves. But yeah, I thank you once, thank you twice, thank you thrice. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe. O te rā, tēnā koutou katoa.